this summer for hip hop, for Brooklyn, was phenomenal, right? Like, what I'm saying is culture curation in post-pandemic central Brooklyn and in the city, but specifically here, has been amazing. Um, and Kai, we were lucky to play a part in that, right? Hip Hop Closet's 25th anniversary block party was a smash.
So much fun. If y'all were in the building.
Right, just throw up fire signs or whatever they do on, how the young kids do. They throw up something to let us know you was there. The mayor's 5x5 block party. I got the honor of being able to book talent for those, and then to host in Brooklyn, and then to host in Harlem.
Oh,
and
so you're the person I needed to call.
I was the person you needed to call. That's all right. We're gonna make sure that never happens again. We're gonna get connected today. But it was an amazing experience to stand on a stage on Fulton and Grand and see 8,000 people on the block, and then to go uptown to Harlem on 125th Street and hear KRS-One say "fuck Gap" and the Gap store is right there. Right? Like, these things, like, you want to make sure that when you're in the moment, the memory that you take from the moment, you're able to archive it and it's worthy. And we had a lot of worthy moments this summer. How was your summer?
Oh, I had a great summer.
Yeah, you had a good summer.
I did. I keep saying I had a really good summer.
Yeah.
But I think that had a lot to do with the fact that I was not working as much as I was working the last couple of summers.
Right.
And just being in the television industry, a lot of people are not working as much. I don't want to say I wasn't working, because I still had a lot of opportunity, and I was still working with BET on the Hip Hop 50 initiative. So, I was busy, but not like I'm usually busy. And I feel like a lot of producers, showrunners were just suffering from just the industry not being. Yeah, I think so. People keep asking me if it's the strike. I'm like, I think it is affecting us, even in unscripted.
Right. So that's kind of where we are now, right? Labor Day's passed. Shout out to the Brooklyn NAACP for the second year in a row. I got to MC their float. I'm telling you right now, if you've never been on a float on Eastern Parkway during the West Indian Day Parade, it is a vibe. 2 million people along Eastern Parkway, just with love, with peace, with happiness. I know they talk a lot about the violence that happens on the Parkway, but 99.5% of it is peace and love. And so now we're here. We're back. Fall. My Jets killed yesterday. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry to see that happen, brother. But the Jets won yesterday. And that's kind of where we start this fall session of conversations. This is episode 29. We've been doing it since January, since the first week of January. We've been interviewing and vibing with people who have had impact in the culture. And this is kind of where I want to start, and this is how I'm going to introduce you. Back in the day, we are of the same age range. I'm not going to tell your age, I ain't going to tell my age.
I was going to say,
we
how do you know that?
Yes, I know, right? We are from the same era. And the era that we grew up in, it was the griots of the culture that were giving you the messages, right? You were reading Right On, right? 12, 13 years old, Salt and Pepper on the cover with LL Cool J. You copped that. You asked your mother for $2, you got the Right On magazine. Then it was The Source. And it was the same thing. It was, for me, as somebody who was a writer, one thing I used to do a lot was the names that I liked their articles, I would look for those names in the next issue. So if Kim Osorio wrote an article that I liked, the next month I would skim through The Source looking for her so that I could read her next article. It was just a little thing that I don't know if people read magazines that way, but that's how I used to read. And so that's where we come out of, is this idea that the pen and the thought and the words, right, and the process was most important. Nowadays it's different. Anybody can get on Instagram right now and write a caption of 100, 200 characters and live in a space and become viral, right? But we're not from that era. You're not from that era. The woman sitting to my left is a legend, without question. When I was trying to look her up today, all I found was interviews of her with a who's who of the elite in the game. So there's no question about her impact. I don't want to talk about the same things people talk about with you.
Okay.
Period. Full stop. So We're going to have a very interesting conversation. I'm glad you're rocking with us. To my left, I want to introduce to some and present to others my sister Kim Osorio. How you doing?
I'm good.
The claps is on.
Yeah.
Jason is back. The applause is on.
You don't gotta make it hot though.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, I gotta make it hot.
Nah, just roll it.
How's everybody? You good? You good? How you feeling? You all right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Kai, you all right?
Yep, everybody's good. South
Everybody's
Jersey,
good?
AC, Philly is in the building.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we get
everybody's
started.
feeling
How
nice.
are you doing?
I'm good. This is like the third or fourth time I've been in Brooklyn over the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's calling me back.
Yeah.
And I lived here.
When?
I lived here in Brooklyn 98 and 99.
Where?
Gates Avenue.
And where? And Washington?
St. James.
So I'm from Green between St. James and Cambridge.
I was there.
Yeah,
Right in one of those brownstones.
Uh-huh.
And that was the block to be at.
absolutely. It's still the block to be at.
Is it?
I live on that block.
You know, I used to just tell people around the corner from where Big E's block was.
Absolutely.
Because that's how people
Right.
knew. But I had to come to Brooklyn in 98
Mhm.
because this is where everybody was. This is
Exactly.
where the industry, particularly writers,
Right.
you know, freelancers for like the Source,
Creatives.
Vibe, a
Yeah.
lot of creatives, right?
Yeah.
So we were here, and I said, okay, that's where I need to be, and I
So
moved.
I grew up on that block. I grew up on Green between St. James and Cambridge. Actually, I moved there when I was like 14,
Mhm.
right? But you're talking about a community where April Walker had her
Yep.
store right down the block, and then I would go get pizza, and Wesley Snipes was getting pizza at the pizza shop, and Branford Marcellus and Guru lived on Washington and Lafayette, and Total lived on St. James, which
Everybody was here.
Kim
Everybody
is
was
from
here.
St. James Towers. Literally everyone was in my community in that space,
So
right?
true story. I'm moving from Sedgwick Avenue. I'm from the Bronx originally,
Yes, you are.
from Castle Hill. But before I moved here, I was on Sedgwick Avenue. I had a Toyota Camry, a '93 Camry. I don't know if you know this, but they're like the best cars ever made.
I didn't know that the '93
specific
Toyota Camry was the best car ever
93
made.
Camry. It's like a
Right.
joke online. Like
Right.
people still have this car. I got rid of mine years ago, but it was the best
You could
car
run up
ever.
the miles on it. People got like 200,
I
300,000
mean,
miles on
the
it.
things I would do to this car, but yet, and it was my first car.
Right.
So I had a '93 Camry, and it had been broken into on Sedgwick Avenue numerous times. Like, it just, you know, I would park it on the street, come back, there's no hubcaps. I had hubcaps. I had hubcaps back
Hubcaps
then.
back in the
I
day.
had
Shout out to
hubcaps.
hubcaps.
Shout
Shout out to hubcaps. I
hubcaps.
lost a hubcap on the FDR. That shit was rolling down the FDR.
Yeah, so they would steal my hubcaps. Every time I replaced them, I had to leave them off.
Mm-hmm.
They stole my radio, everything, always breaking into my car. And, you know, when I moved here, I was like, okay, it's a much safer neighborhood. I'm going to be in Brooklyn now. Parked my car. First week, they threw a brick through my window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest misconception.
Welcome to Brooklyn.
The biggest misconception about that community is that people think it's sweet, and it's absolutely not sweet.
I was like,
Absolutely not.
God, what? They were like, welcome to new car. Welcome to Brooklyn.
That's
I was
funny.
like, yeah.
How much it cost for you to fix your window back then?
A lot back then.
Probably like $200.
Like, but
Right.
back
But
then,
back then it was
a lot for
$200,
me.
right?
I think it was more.
Right.
I think it was more. Yeah, I love that car.
So let's start at the very beginning. You are from Castle Hill.
Hmm.
Of all the boroughs in New York City, it's the Bronx that I have the most problem getting around. It's tough getting around.
You think?
I always get lost in the Bronx.
As in comparison to Queens?
Yeah,
Right.
because Queens is very segregated. This is the thing about Queens. You're not going, if you're going to Queens and you're black, you're going to South Side, you're going to Laurelton, you're going to Rosedale,
Mhm.
right? You may go to St. Albans. You're not traversing Queens.
Right.
In the Bronx, first off, there's a few ways you can get into the Bronx,
Right.
right? I've been in the Bronx and I didn't even know I was in the Bronx.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm in the Bronx. but the Bronx is way less segregated than Queens.
Wait, you gotta cross a bridge to get into the Bronx.
I
You
know,
should
but it's like 2 bridges to
You
get in
should
the
know.
Bronx.
Depends on where you're coming from.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know. For me, I grew up there. So
Right. You know what Beekman Houses is?
No. Where's
See,
that?
it's in the Bronx.
But where? I probably
It's
do know.
across the, what's that, the 2nd Avenue Bridge or the Willis Avenue
Uh-huh.
Bridge. It's across
right
one
there.
of those bridges
Yep.
right off there.
Yep,
It's a
I know
project
those.
right
Yep,
there. So
I
I used to
know
go to
those projects.
Beekman a lot.
Okay.
Shout out to Beekman. I'm not gonna shout out who I used to visit in Beekman, but shout out to Beekman. But that's the extent of the Bronx for me, is Beekman.
But that's right there.
Yes.
So the Bronx to me is super easy. You know, so like I was saying, I grew up in Castle Hill off the 6th train. It's the reason why I don't take the train ever. I don't get on the train. I don't get on the train. I'm scarred.
I feel you.
Yeah. So but I've lived in different parts of the Bronx. Like, you know, when I got my first apartment, I was on Bathgate Avenue by Fordham University, which is, I went to Fordham.
I know.
And that is a horrible neighborhood. I shouldn't say that, but yeah, it's like one of the worst neighborhoods.
It's one of the worst neighborhoods. Yeah, I know Bathgate.
And I was there, and then I moved to Sedgwick Avenue. You know, I just was all over the Bronx as a kid.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a good kid.
What do you mean by that?
Because I was a good kid. My mother says I was in a gang. It was not
Were
a
you
gang.
in a gang?
No, she goes, you know, Kim was in a gang. I was not in a gang. It was not a gang. I had a crew though.
Right.
Crews are different.
Yeah, we all had crews. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So my crew was called the Tough Maid Girls, TMG.
TMG, Tough Maker.
So-
That sounds like
so
a
your
gang.
gang.
Right. It sounds like a gang. Okay, I'm sorry.
So
I'm agreeing with Mom.
I was good. And, you know, all my friends, they used to get into a lot of fights. They're going to kill me when they see this. They're going to be like, stop doing that every time you go on.
You always
anything,
ratting
you're
about.
there. Because I say, she'll kill me, but whatever. I say that the first fight that I ever had one-on-one, I didn't want to fight.
Right.
I didn't want to do it.
Right.
And I blame one of my friends because she used to fight.
Right.
And she was one of those girls that pretty much had knocked someone out. And, you know, I had 2 friends and they were like the leaders of the crew.
Right. They were like Baby D in Next Friday. Right.
They were like the leaders.
Yeah.
So it was like another story. I know I've told this story before. Like I went in and we were stealing. You know, kids did that back
like
then.
you in a gang, kid.
That was not a gang. This is what kids do. And
That's organized crime.
I stole some jackets from Macy's, right?
Jackets?
Jackets.
Oh, Rico charges.
So I have
Yeah.
this story, right?
Right.
So we go into Macy's in Parkchester.
I know that
And
Macy's.
you know that Macy's,
Mhm.
right? Is it still there?
I don't know. It was there back when I was going to Parkchester.
So we're like, you know, we're gonna we're gonna get these jackets, right? So we go in, and back then it wasn't the same with the alarms.
Right.
So we put the jackets on, right? But I put on 2 jackets.
Right. Because you are
Because I'm like, I'm a
gangster.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gangster till I
Right.
get out. So I walk out. One of my friends didn't do it.
Right.
So what happened? Somebody was looking, whatever. So she basically was like, run your jacket. You took 2, give me one. And I was like, but I took 2 for me.
Right.
Right? But
Right.
no, I had to give her my
And
jacket.
you had to give up your
But she
jacket.
was one of the leaders that was
Yeah, she
knocking
was
people
tough.
out. Yeah.
Right. She was tough.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it was like that, right? So I like to think that I was one of the good girls. And they say that even about me. That's true. I'm not making that up. Like, I feel like any problems I ever got into was a misunderstanding back then.
Right.
And it was my friend's fault.
Kind of talk
There's
like
no
an Italian mob boss.
No accountability. I'm taking no
Misunderstanding.
accountability. They made me do it. They made me fight. I didn't want to fight.
So look, a quick note, because I used to steal out of spots too, right? Like now the law is that the people in the store are not to chase people if they come in and boost. Did you know that? Like it's a new thing now.
No.
Yeah, where you can go boot, kids can go boost now, and if they run out the store, the people, the security, they're not to chase them.
So I grew up in Castle Hill.
Yeah.
Before I was at Castle House on 165th Street. My father ran numbers, right?
I want to talk to you about that.
Right. So this is the environment that I came
Yeah,
into,
I wanna
right?
talk to
There
you
was a
about
fire every week, right?
Right.
We can talk about that.
Uh-huh.
My kids grew up in Fort Lee, New Jersey.
I know Fort Lee.
It's very different.
Yeah, my
right?
daughter grew up in Teaneck.
So I'm driving home one day, and I get a phone call. It's from my oldest daughter, and she's like, "Mom, don't get upset." I'm like, "What's happening?" She's like, "I just want you. What are you doing right now? You're driving. Don't get upset." And she tells me that my 16-year-old was caught shoplifting.
Shoplifting, right?
Mhm.
Well, she got it honest. I'm saying she got it.
At
honest.
Sephora.
Right. At Sephora. Oh, okay.
Sephora,
Uh-huh.
right at the mall.
Right.
So I'm fuming. right? So I had to detour. My son was in basketball. I said, let me go, up to Sephora. But, my first thing is to make sure she's okay, right? And I'll deal with her later.
Right.
But I get into the store and I'm like, I'm here, like I'm the mother.
I'm the mother, right?
Yeah.
Release my child.
Right. So I go to the back and the woman is like, so we caught them so I'm looking, it's her and her friend. Her friend didn't get caught. But somehow it's her and her friend.
Behind, right.
Because I guess, whatever. And the lady tells me, right, like, well, we're going to need you to sign I said, I'm not signing nothing. Let's go. So I'm pissed. I just want my child to come on, let's go. But she's, as a matter of fact, she wasn't 16 and she was too young for them to do anything.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I don't even know the laws at this time, but like, they're like, well, before you take her, we're going to need you to sign something. I was like, what? I was like, I'm taking my child.
Right.
You could see how upset I was.
Right.
I was like, I'm taking my child and I'm leaving.
Right.
Are you calling the police? Oh, you're not. Okay, you're mall security. I'm taking my child. Right. But when I took her, when we spoke about it, obviously she was in trouble. And when we left, I didn't know the other little girl that was with my daughter. And I said to her, who are you here with?
Right.
Who's coming to get you? And she was like, my dad. I was like, no, come on. I'm taking her too. This is what I told the Sephora thing. And they're like, okay. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So when I walk out, I went to law school, but I don't practice.
Right.
The little girl says, are you a lawyer? I'm like, no, but you coming with me, right? But I think what I learned was like, I don't want to say her name, but everyone knows my child's name is Kiana. I'm like, Kiana, like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Like, why would you do? First of all, don't you know there's like cameras everywhere?
Right. But hold on, what were you thinking when you took those 2 jackets?
I thought about that. I said, I'm like, I'm not supposed to be telling this story. She'd kill me. But I said, like, we've all done this before. It's not even about needing the items.
It's almost never about needing that.
Right? It's about seeing if you can get away with it.
That's what it's about.
And I knew that's what she was doing.
It's about challenging authority.
And when I got her in the car, I said, let me tell you something. I'm not even mad that you stole. I'm mad that you got caught.
Exactly. That's real.
How dare you?
Right. How dare you get caught?
Right. Because you're embarrassing me. You know what I'm saying? I said, but you don't know nothing about this life. So don't ever again.
Right. You didn't grow up like that. You don't have that. You don't have those things that push you into proving yourself in this way.
And when she explained,
you're privileged.
When she explained what happened, she said she walked out the store. And they came out and said, come back. And I said, and why would you go back?
Right. That's when you run. That's when you turn on the Deion Sanders.
Just keep walking.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
She didn't know.
So I wanted to bring up that point because you and I have that in common. Well, one generation removed, because my grandfather ran numbers. In Brooklyn. He had 3 spots. He had Bergen and Nostrand. He had Kingston and Bean. He had Lewis and Macon, which is now a restaurant. But when I read that about you, the one thing that I wanted to uplift about that was that at a young age, so for me, I was young, right? And I remember like going to the spots, like I would spend time with my grandfather and he would go around and collect his money. And like I would go to a spot and he would like put me in the back room and give me like now laters. I could take whatever I want from the stores. That's what I remember. I remember those stores, I was good. Like I could get whatever. And I could take the shit, right? But the thing that you and I have in common is that because if your father ran numbers, then like me, you was privy to the fact that this city had back rooms and situations that you couldn't speak about or that it just wasn't known, right? And how was it growing up like that? Because it was my grandfather. It wasn't my father. It was my grandfather, so I didn't live with him. But
it was different. It's funny because when you say you knew that, I'm like, oh yeah, because I've been talking about this more so now as an adult, and I'm like, what are you? They're not going after my father now.
Yeah.
So like, shout out to my father. He's in Ocala.
Shout out to Pablo.
Yeah. Not running numbers anymore.
It's fine if he is, because the lottery is hitting that. The lottery took the idea.
He's not doing that anymore. But I know that being the daughter of a number runner affected me in certain ways now.
That's what I'm saying.
It really did.
Right.
One of the things was I'm not great with my finances.
Oh, really?
I'm not.
So you think that comes from that?
Well, I think there was fast money,
Uh-huh.
so money was always coming.
Right.
So I
got you.
never thought about it would
You
ever.
didn't have to plan it because it was always
it was
coming.
always going to come.
Right,
And that's not
gotcha.
that we didn't fall on hard times,
Right.
but if we did, the recovery from that
Was
always
quick.
came quick, right? So like I learned that.
That's real because they say that finances is genetics. Like you learn from the right, and I get that. I kind of understand what you're saying about how fast money is. Like even with selling drugs, it's like you get used to this idea of I could get back quick.
That is so embedded in me, and so I'm not preparing the way and learning that. I'm like, I'm good,
Right.
you know. I know that it's like number runner trauma.
Right.
But also growing up, it was hard because, you know, when they ask you, well, what does your father do? What does your father do? I couldn't come clean about that. I was taught to say, my father works at a grocery store.
I was taught to say that my grandfather was a cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that.
Yeah.
That's
so
what I meant about the
like
unspoken
the cover
part.
up,
Right.
Right? Like it's like something that, again, I was like hiding, right? Like I couldn't speak the truth on that. I had to cover it up. It's like the no snitching thing. Like I had to make sure certain people don't tell certain people that your father does that, right? You don't want them to know. So that was also something. But, you know, there were the good parts, like the neighborhood that he ran numbers in Harlem on Lexington Avenue, mostly. And then he moved over.
In Spanish Harlem?
He 96 in Lex first,
Okay,
and then all up from like 100. He had spots on like 103rd, 110. And it was like a family business. So my uncle, my father, and I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus.
Yeah, don't start saying names.
I'm like,
ain't no statute of limitations on certain shit.
who's watching?
Right.
Oh, I'll get that call from my uncle. I haven't gotten it.
I don't want to get the call from you.
Can believe. I saw an interview, right? So like, you know, there were spots all up and down Lexington. You know, I knew how to find my father. So I knew, like, once I started driving.
Right, you knew the spots.
Right, I would hit the spots. Like,
Right.
I knew how to find my father, right? And he was out a lot, obviously, because of the lifestyle. So he was in the streets.
Yeah.
That's my father didn't have. And he didn't go past the 5th grade, I think. Yeah. So he just didn't have the education. Like that was the career. It's funny. That, you know, that's what he fell into.
That's what it was.
And you know, my mother liked the finer things in life, but we lived in that 10-11 Carol Place, which was not, you know. It's sort of weird. Like you got minks. My mother had minks and stuff, but we would go home to like Grand Concourse.
But did you ever look at it from the perspective of this is so hip hop? And what I mean by that is hip hop grew out of this culture that was post civil rights movement,
Right.
but also it was like there was a thing that was happening in Black and brown communities where we had to find our economy. Right? If you weren't educated and you weren't going to college, then you had to kind of, if you didn't have a skill and you wasn't playing ball, where was the economy for you?
Right.
And people like my grandfather and your father found the economy in the gray market, which when I say gray, it's like it's kind of illegal, but it was kind of covered up as legal.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather, like your father had stores. And if you went in the store and you didn't know it was a number spot, you was just buying Tropical Fantasy and then you would be on your way. Right? But that's not true because the whole fucking hood knew it was a number spot.
But the hood knows, the cops know.
Right, everybody knows.
Come in, hey, George, what's up? Like,
right, so it's an unspoken thing.
Right?
It's unspoken, but it's in clear and plain sight. And so we are the children of the people who had to make a way out of no way, and that's hip hop.
Yeah, you're right.
Your mom's wearing a mink and going up in a tenement, that's hip hop.
That's crazy.
Like, that's hip hop, though.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm saying? That's the culture. That is the defining kind of foundation of hip hop. It's like we're going to make a way out of no way. Right. And those people who were successful became reflections of the culture. Right. And that's why that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because when I read that, I was like, oh.
Interesting.
Wow. So maybe that's where her sense of storytelling and writing comes out of.
It does. And, you know, I found that later on, like when I did my book, straight from the source on Amazon.
You need a copy. You gotta send a
I
copy.
definitely will send you a
Yeah.
copy. But when I did my book, I talked about sort of my path as a writer getting to the source and then what I went through at the source. But it was a very small piece of like my hip hop history because of the things that we're talking about now, because of how I came up and how I got into the music really. I mean, I touched on it a little bit. So I think it's something, it's part of my story that I certainly want to tell as, you know, I think about like what's next in terms of writing for me.
And again, I think from a socialism, like looking at it, like how we were socialized, that those type of things play a big role in it because that was a thing. Like I can remember my grandmother and grandfather every Friday they would have spaghetti and fish. There'd be gin, there'd be vodka. They start playing music. They want little Marlon to come out and dance for them. And this was a lifestyle. Like this was real, right? And then, you know, I remember when he fell off and how that affected everybody, including him. Right? All of this stuff is real, but it created the person that I am and it created the person that you were. What high school did you go to?
I went to Cardinal Spellman.
Oh, you went to Cardinal Spellman?
Yep, in the Bronx.
Yep. You was always smart on the low.
And I was good.
You was good. You was good. So you went to Cardinal Spellman.
Yep.
What did you want to be? Did you want to be a lawyer? Is that why you?
So first of all, I want to be a singer. If we go really
Can
back,
you sing?
It's debatable.
It's debatable.
I could sing in karaoke.
Right. You gotta come to one of our
you gotta come to karaoke.
Yo, we kill karaoke.
I gotta bring my baby. She's like this little one that was, you know, doing what she was doing. Both of my daughters actually. So like, you know, at first like I wanted to, you know, be a performer. I wanted to dance. I did all of that. Then I wanted to be like a teacher. Then I wanted to be like, you know, I think somewhere in college, I decided I'm going to go to law school because I just wanted to be successful and I didn't know what my path was. So I was always looking for it. And
Fordham is a great school for undergrad, though.
You know,
that was a good choice. Yeah,
it was different back then.
Was it?
It wasn't diverse at all.
It wasn't.
No, and no. Now I think it is, but back then that campus, it was, you know. It was very
real PWI. Right.
So, and for me, it's like this world in the middle of the Bronx, and I didn't get the college experience because my college years were like coming up in the industry, in the game, right?
Right. So let's kind of talk about that.
That's where.
So Kim is in Fordham, but Fordham is vanilla. So she's not spending time on campus like that. What is she doing? Where is she finding hip hop? Because that's kind of what we all were doing at that time.
I started to intern at like BMG Distribution, Profile Records. Like I was trying to figure out what it was. I saw an ad in the Village Voice, and it was like intern for a record label, and I went. And I got it. I got the internship. And that kind of gave me a little bit of access, right? And now I get all the records before they come out. And I get the invite. I saw James Brown in concert back then. I was thinking about that recently.
Yo, that's serious.
I saw a James Brown clip. And I was like, you actually went to a James Brown concert?
That's serious.
Yeah, because when you think now, like, if you go to Renaissance, because I went to Renaissance, it's phenomenal. I was like, this is another level, you know what I mean? And I wasn't even a Beyonce fan like that, but the concert experience is incredible. Anyone
Did you
that's
mute
gone,
when she said everybody go mute?
Of course, right? Like, you know, I was on point.
You gotta pay homage.
I was on point.
Do it right.
So, but that concert experience, right? I took Kiana, and she loves Beyonce, and she enjoyed it so much. I was trying to think of my concert experiences when I was coming up. What impacted me? And I saw a James Brown clip, and I was like, you actually, you know, had like 4th row seats to a James Brown concert.
Major.
That's what I'm saying. And I didn't even know it back then because I was getting this access early. So Sade, like I was seeing all these artists that were, you know, distributed or on labels distributed by BMG. And I started to make connections like that. But also being from New York, going out, knowing what clubs to go to, like every night there was a different club. I was going out, right? We were going to the Tunnel. We were going to,
Kit Kat, remember Kit Kat Club?
I remember vaguely
Yeah.
the Capitol.
Yeah.
Remember the Capitol?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where else were we? We were like, you
The
know,
2 Eyes and Nails downtown.
Nels, the Blue Angel. Remember the Blue
No,
Angel?
I don't remember.
That's when it got real exclusive. See,
Oh, see, I wasn't.
Sunday
I
nights
wasn't
at the
privy.
Blue Angel,
Right.
they did, you know, the Ron Grant parties, and
Oh, Ron Grant.
yes, and I would go to those while I
Yes.
was in college, right? And everyone who was trying to get on was there.
Was there, right? Well, Ron Grant
Mixed
was
in with a
doing it for
couple of
years.
celebs.
Right.
You know, so you'd be sitting, you order food, oh, this is beautiful, and then somebody would get up from their table and be like, hey, you know, like
Right.
just start blowing, and you're
You
like,
got a little voice.
yeah, I can
This is debatable.
So, it's debatable. You know, but it was an incredible time,
Right.
right? Like
And that access was everything.
you're sitting there and Puff's at the next table.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and the same thing you're doing. He's
Right.
sitting there eating, and people are coming in and they're performing. You know, just like Cafe Wok,
Mhm.
right?
Like
So
Cafe Wok, exactly.
So we would just be in the mix
Right.
at that time.
Right.
So as you're kind of climbing the ladder,
Uh,
writing or whatever I was doing, working at, you know, or interning, whatever I was doing, because I did publicity, marketing, I was
Right.
trying to figure it out.
Was you writing though? Like,
Not-
were you
not
writing?
really.
Writing?
Not really. Like, this is before I was really writing. So when I was interning, I was doing, you know, like I said, publicity, I was doing marketing, I was doing radio, I was trying my hand at different internships, right?
Right.
So I was just trying to figure it out. I didn't really know that writing was my talent.
Right.
And I was making connections at these parties, right? Because I knew, it just got to a point where I knew where to be.
Right.
I don't know how, but I knew
Right.
if we go spend all the money we made this
Right.
week at Mr. Chow, we're going to see the people we need to see.
Right.
And that was early. That was early. And I think
You know,
that helped.
the thing about that I that's interesting to me is, again, we're from kind of the same era,
Mhm.
and in that time frame, all of us were kind of searching for our space in the culture,
Mhm.
right? So for me, it really came from rapping and like later on modeling, but it
Mhm.
was always like trying to use what I felt like I was good at
Right.
to get in a space where I could be part of that. You know what I'm saying? And it was like however I could do it. So socially, going out, Cheetahs, Duvet,
Socially,
Metronome,
it's-
right? So it was-
Metronome, we had a fight in Metronome.
you were still fighting as an adult. See,
No, no,
you
no.
not see,
No,
you're
no,
not
no.
low. You're not low.
We
Who swung
had-
first? You.
No, I threw my foot up.
You threw your foot up. That's called a kick.
I kicked right. But see, the girl was already like here in my friend's face. Like she was
Mhm.
here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I threw my foot up and I kicked her down because I was like, we're gonna get this on now.
You kicked her down. Do you mean down the steps in Metronome?
No, just like forward,
Uh-huh.
like I did that,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
What I didn't realize was that her crew was behind me.
Mm.
It was a wrap.
So
I'm happy you said
shout out to Metronome for like making sure I escaped out of there alive. Shout out to their security back in 1990, whatever.
Whatever, right?
So I kick her down and I'm like about to like jump on this girl. I'm not a fighter like that. Like
Right.
this is all
But
front.
you already
This
told me
is
about
all
a couple
front.
of fights, but I'm hearing you, but I'm not really
So it just
believing you at
happened.
this
So I do this, right? It was crazy. I had to go to work the next day with bruises on my leg. It was crazy. And someone, as I'm like, you know, because at this point, my friend, she's gonna win now
Right.
because I just gave her the upper hand.
Right. You did 300 like
I just-
Sparta. Sparta.
Bow, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, I feel someone grab me from the back of my hair and just drag me back through the whole dance floor. And all I could think about is, bitch, don't fall.
Right.
Don't
Because if
fall.
you fall, you
You're
getting the
done.
feet on you.
You're done.
Yeah, they're gonna tap dance
So
on you.
I'm like doing a back bend all the way through.
Right.
She drags me to the bar.
Right.
Shout out to her, whoever she is, for the peripheral vision that caught me about to kick down her friend, and dragged me all the way, hit me with a champagne bottle,
Right.
and poured the champagne over my head like that
Wow, she did you.
because I was too
dirty.
old to be fighting.
Right.
And that day I had gotten my hair done at the Dominican salon.
Uh-huh.
And so it was curly. After she did that, it was curly.
Right.
Security pulled her off me, right? Because I never saw her.
Right.
I
You
never
even
saw her.
Right.
It was all like this. And the crowd went like that. And I looked up and I got champagne, whatever. Security let me go. And I see my friend across the room. That's all I see. And she goes, "What the hell happened to you?" She's going to love it.
What happened to the one you 300? Did your friend wind up beating her?
She had this across her face. I mean, but it. So,
But even
that
that,
was a
though,
little boy.
nah,
You
but
know
of course it
guy.
was. Of course it was. But even that's another thing is like the level of intensity that the game was. Like when you would go out, right, in the spots. But it was like we were so young. Like when
We
you look
were.
back at it.
I'm blessed.
Yeah, when you
that
look
nothing
back at
happened.
it, you're like, damn, I was 22, I was 23.
I always
Like,
tell my gang, that my mother says gang, I always tell them, we were so lucky
yeah,
that nothing happened to us. Like, we did so much
yeah.
dumb
I'm
shit.
telling you.
Because I used to jump in the train track. Do you ever jump in the train track?
Of course I did.
I talked about
We
that.
used to have, me and my crew used to, and I said crew, we weren't a gang.
Yeah, it was
right?
crew.
Right. So we used to like everybody would have to do it. So we'd be waiting at Notion
Initiation.
Avenue. Right, and it was like, yo, your turn,
Right.
your turn. And all of us had to jump down and then come back up.
Right.
Right. Yeah, we've done that. That's a when you grow up in the ghetto, that's the type of stuff that you do.
Shout out to my friend Bianca. I just told her story. She broke her thumb last week, right? She was like a baby. She was going crazy, and I had to show her my finger. I said, "Oh, you broke your thumb? Whatever. You see how my finger's flat? There.
Mhm.
Look at the shape of my finger.
Yeah, it looks like you were in the bathtub for too long.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right? It's not attractive. It's like,
No, it's not bad. I don't think it's ugly.
See my finger? You guys see my finger? So when I was like 11, 12 years old, something fell. You know the subway, the subway platform things that you pull up?
The grates.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I never knew that. The grates.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what it's
Right.
called. So something fell in there.
Uh-huh.
So me and my friends decided we were gonna pick it up.
Uh-huh.
And we picked it up and it dropped on my finger.
And it smashed you.
Smashed my finger.
Mm.
For life. Look.
Mhm.
When she does my nails at the nail salon, it's
Yeah,
always
that
looks
finger is
retarded.
absolutely the ugliest finger.
I know I'm
I've
not
ever
supposed to
seen.
say that word. My kids go, "Mom, don't
You
say the
can't
word
use
retarded."
retarded
I
no
know.
more. Yeah, that's.
What do you say? Deformed?
You
It looks
say,
deformed?
I don't know what you say. You don't talk about them no more. You don't say, you don't
What am I
even
supposed to call
say
my,
that.
I don't know what you say.
my abnormal finger?
Abnormal.
This is abnormal. Just
So these are the
be
things.
tolerant.
But when you think about it, you know what I could have did, like by
Yeah.
picking that up
Yes.
to myself. Like,
Yes.
what was I thinking as a
We
child?
explored the city differently than our children.
Yeah.
I have a 28-year-old, and she's never explored New York City the way I did.
Mhm.
Even my kids, I got a 7-year-old and a 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They'll never, like they just won't ever.
I know. Look at my finger.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
I just,
you maimed yourself.
yeah, for what?
Yeah, you maimed
Just to
yourself.
get. I should have just
Did you go to
left
the
it
doctor
down
for
there.
it?
No, it was.
That's why it looks like that.
You know when the blood
Yeah,
gets
you have.
here
Yeah, that's
and the
yeah.
nail comes off. I know
Yeah,
it's
your
gross.
nail came off.
Yeah, but
Did you have a boyfriend at the
I
time? Did he leave you for
also I was little. I was like 12, 11, 12. I also had dry blood all through this finger.
that? Yeah, cause you
But you know,
fucked your finger
and
up.
do you know I did? And do you know why I didn't go to the doctor?
Why?
I wasn't going to tell my
You want
mother.
to tell your mother? Exactly.
Not just my
Exactly.
finger.
Exactly.
So I wasn't gonna, because she would have said, "What were you thinking?
Right.
Picking up the subway thing?"
Right. Right. When did you realize how important hip hop was in terms of your trajectory, like in terms of where you were headed? Like, because a
after-
lot of that stuff, like you said, you didn't really, you seeing James Brown, you didn't realize, right?
No, after law school. After law school, because when I graduated law school, I took
What
the
year was
bar, 99,
Right.
and I failed. Because I
Right.
didn't study,
A lot of people
because I was in the
fail.
club. Yeah, but I was in the club. That's
Right.
why I failed.
Right.
I failed because instead of studying,
You was in a
I was in
club.
the club. So I got a job offer at the Source not too long after I failed the bar. And I basically picked that job over pursuing, my law, my license.
Mhm.
And I haven't looked back since.
Mhm.
I was researching cases for a friend of mine last week. And I was figuring it out again. It's like learning stuff all over. And I was like, should I take the bar? I should probably take the bar.
Think about it.
Well, I have taken it like in previous years, and every time I take it, it's a fail for me.
It's a lot. It's
you
one
gotta-
of the
you gotta
hardest.
Change.
It's one of the hardest tests in the world.
It's you gotta study.
Yeah.
And so I'm the type of person that always kind of walks into a situation like, I got this,
Yeah.
and I never study.
Right.
But I don't got it. I gotta study.
You gotta study.
I gotta
I
study.
took the Series 7. I was.
I heard that
broken.
was super hard.
But that's what I'm about to tell you. So when I was taking, I went to like the classes, like
Right.
prep course, like Kaplan or whatever
right,
it was
Right.
that TD Waterhouse paid for us to do. But they said that the Series 7 was the third hardest test to
exam.
take. The
Yeah.
first was the bar.
So
So that's when I was like, oh well, shit. I'd rather be a broker than a lawyer.
yeah, and listen, it's too many lawyers now. So I'm almost like, well, my mother asked me all the time. She's like, are you gonna take the bar? I'm like, why? I'm not gonna make as much money.
Right.
right. So,
Right.
but I don't know. Like now, I'm more passionate about it than I was back then. Back then, it was all about hip hop. Now it's still kind of about hip hop, but I feel like my friend Tracy Waples, shout out to Tracy Waples.
Mm-hmm.
She said the other day, she's like, you're like the hip hop public defender.
Because people come to you with that.
Because if
they
you
know, right? If you
that
know,
I
you know.
have it, and I've done a lot in that, just researching cases and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think about it. I'm like, maybe I'll do that.
Your upbringing, your gang. Shout out to your gang.
Shout out to my gang. Shout out to TMG. In
But
the building.
all of it kind of, it's like the consummate hip hop story.
Is
right?
it?
Like if you were
Yeah.
raised in this culture
Yeah.
as a second generation, because we're not first generation, we're second generation.
We are.
Right?
We are second generation hip
We're
hop.
2.0.
My favorite people are the first generation hip hoppers.
Yeah, that's like my uncle. Like my uncle bought me my first pair of Jordans,
Yeah.
and he'll tell me that shit to this day. He's like 60-something years old.
Right.
I bought you your first pair of Jordans. It's like that's hip hop 1.0.
Yeah.
I love that generation.
Yeah, that's
as
my
well.
favorite generation.
Right.
That's my favorite generation.
But as hip hop 2.0, if you're gonna write a hip hop 2.0 story, it's kind of your story, right?
Yeah.
And then you get put into a situation where you get hired for the source, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I missed something, but you really didn't have a passion for writing until.
I found my passion for writing probably right before I got to the source, right? Because I was writing about music, and I always had that passion for music.
Where before the source? Where were you writing about?
I was
music?
freelancing. Like I worked at
Okay.
XXL, I wrote for Vibe, I wrote for Billboard, One World. Like I had little jobs here and there that weren't full time, but it was. I worked at Muse, this software company that did the annotations on the records. So I was learning how to
You just
write
was
about
hustling.
music.
You was
I
like,
was hustling.
whoever's cutting checks, I'm there.
I'm still like that. It's bad.
Right.
It's bad.
No, it's not bad.
Well,
That's also very much
I want to
us.
focus on my own projects, and
Right.
sometimes, like, if you like wave a check, I'll be like,
okay.
I'll do that job.
I'll do it.
Yeah. So it's like if the check is big enough. But I definitely came up and realized, like, when I was writing about, because I always loved music. I had turntables. See,
You had
I had
turntables
turntables. I'm getting them back.
when you was in high school.
They're expensive now. I had turntables.
How much is Technic 1200s now?
I don't know, but back then when I bought like my turntables and my needles and my mixer and all of that, like I was able to get that on whatever money I was making.
Yeah, I had turntables too.
Now
Stole
I
them
think
somehow.
I keep trying to get all like my DJ friends. Like, can you get those for cheap?
Right.
I'm like, how much? should I
Nobody
charge
even
you?
uses turntables like that no more. Like only 2.0 and 1.0. Anybody after us, they don't even know how beautiful that is.
I love it. So I want to
Yeah.
get them back once I
Yeah.
fix up my basement. I want to make it like a hip hop closet
Uh-huh.
in my basement.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I got a couple of things, but I got to clear out the other stuff. But that's like my goal, because it'd be like almost like a little set.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That would be dope.
that's what I'm trying to do
Yeah,
with my
that's dope.
basement.
Yeah, that would be dope.
Yeah.
So there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I want to touch on this. Like, by the time I had heard your name,
hmm
and like I told you, what I said was the truth. Like, I would read the source, and like,
hmm
if it was an article that you wrote, I would wait to read whatever you
Mhm.
wrote next. Like, that's kind of how I processed it.
Right.
I like the people who wrote in a way that I felt I would follow them. When was it that you was like, I've arrived in this culture, in this space? Because it maybe could have been before that. You may felt like you arrived when Shorty poured champagne on you at the metronome. You was like, shit, I'm lit, I'm hip
I'm
hop.
lit.
But when
hip-hop.
when did you become Kim Osorio, the hip hop maven?
I think when I got the editor-in-chief job,
Mhm.
that's when I felt like that.
Mhm.
That's because then it was like everyone knew who I was and everyone wanted, if they didn't know who I was,
Right.
they wanted to know.
Right.
So that, because that position had a little clout back then,
It did.
right?
Right. The Source at a point was the premier resource for hip hop news.
Uh-huh.
Period.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember the award shows?
Yeah. Yeah. The Source Awards. The Source Awards.
Yeah.
That was a brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that you're right. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then I read that the Post kind of put you as like top Latinas in
Yes.
New York City, and that
Yes.
was kind of like
That was a big deal too.
right because it then pushed you into that space. It elevated
Right.
you.
Right. That
Right.
was a big deal too.
Right.
Yeah.
But where I want to ask this the right way.
Mhm.
Where was it that you kind of figured out how to get money? And this is the reason why I'm asking,
Mhm.
because, like, again, I come from the hip hop culture, right? I did everything. I danced, I rhymed, I modeled, right? I did as much. I DJ'd, I promoted parties. I just wanted to get money in the
Right.
game,
Right.
right? And even now, at my age, everything that I do is kind of geared towards the culture.
Right.
And I do dope stuff, but the focus is always on it. The root of it is the culture.
Right.
But I didn't always know how to get money from the culture.
Mhm.
Right? Like I didn't know like I didn't intern anywhere.
Right.
Right? So I didn't come into spaces of opportunity early on. Right? And then I kind of had to kind of find my way to the money. And the same thing, and this is the story of Hip Hop Closet.
Mhm.
Like Hip Hop Closet is 25 years old. When Kaisha and Malik founded this company, they just was kind of like, yo, bet we gonna do this.
Right.
And yo, you want a model? Yeah, bet I'm a model.
Right.
Right? And that was it. Right? And from that has grown this thing of ours.
Mhm.
But at the beginning, at the onset, it wasn't like we knew for certain that
Right.
this thing was gonna rock.
Right.
How did you know how to get money in the game? And how did you know? And then sort of like, were you able to command it in a way where you was like, oh, I know how to do this? Or did it just fall? Did bags just fall for you?
Bags were falling at one point, right? So, and I still feel like the bag ain't big enough.
Right.
Bags were falling. But then at a certain point after I left the Source, I realized that relationships get you the most checks.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, you gotta be nice to people. Because they don't like you.
Cause you're a badass from the Bronx.
Yeah,
Look at
they're
this
not
thing.
calling you with these
Right.
checks.
Right.
And that kind of changed how I nurtured relationships. So I didn't nurture relationships for a long time. It's not easy for me, right? Like I kind of click with the people I click with.
Right.
And usually I'll say, if you see me with someone, those are my people.
That's my people.
Right.
Like that, right.
And then I was like, you got to open this up because your people, there's so many people around and there's opportunities and you need to just connect with more people. And so like now I really enjoy meeting new people, right?
Mhm.
Like I'll get a phone call. I got a phone call the other day. Someone had an opportunity for me to speak at a university. I mean, I spoke to her for an hour on the phone.
Mhm.
I mean, and her initial call was like, hey, we want to book you. I was like, great.
Right.
But I wanted to get to know her. I was
Right.
like, thank you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't do as much of that anymore.
Right.
So I was interested in her
Mhm.
and her story and who she was and
Mhm.
how she found me and why she wanted me to speak.
Mhm.
I wasn't always like that.
But part of it also has to be proof of concept, right? Like once you get into a space where you're proven, then because I'm kind of experiencing that in this moment. Like, you do something and it's valued, and then people call you because they value what you did.
Yes.
Right.
but they don't call you again if you don't nurture
If
the
you don't
relationship.
nurture the relationship.
So
Right.
yeah, like when I put my book out, right? I spoke, I got a nice chunk of change to write my book, and then I did a university speaking run, right? I was rep by a speaking agency, and I went across to all of these schools, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And then I wondered, why did, there was one school that called me back, and it was someone who I thought was like, they were proactive, right? They were like keeping the connection, and they were smart, because the reason why they were doing that with me was because they really figured out how to get their student body into, or make those connections with people who were out there. And a lot of those students kind of work in the industry today, and they'll be like, oh, you came and spoke to me at Syracuse University. I'm like, really? I went there twice, right? So like, they did a great job of that networking with bringing the speakers in. It's like, yeah, we're going to pay you this $7,000 to speak.
Right.
But when you leave,
right.
you're going to create opportunities for our students. So they really nurtured that relationship.
Right. It wasn't just a one-step thing. It was on.
And it was smart on their part, right? But when I look back at that, I'm like, well, I, should have nurtured more relationships with the schools, right? Because that's where I want to be impactful now, right? Like when I see how many people have come out of these schools that I've spoken at, and they're like, they have their own careers, and a lot of them are in media. I'm like, wow. Like I'll run into someone in the industry, they'll be like, hey, you came and spoke at my school. I'm like, I did? How'd you get here? You know what I'm saying? I want to be a part of them getting there, right? So like, and I'm proud to say when I am, but I want to do more. So that's like one of my missions now.
I ask everybody that sits in this chair this because I think it's very important. We always, when you do these interviews and you talk to these talking heads and they ask you the questions that they wrote 3 weeks ago and the whole thing, no one ever talks about the mental health aspect of it, right? And I know I be running, like I be ripping and running. At times I feel overwhelmed, right? And there's times I actually have to shut everything off and kind of reset. I had a good summer. I had situations where I was overwhelmed. Luckily for me, I had planned out vacations and situations where I could reset. When you were in the mix, like really rocking and rolling, editor-in-chief of The Source, everything moving, were you happy in your personal life?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was the best time of my life.
That was the best time in your life? What? Better than now?
Yes! The Source?
Yeah?
Yes, best job I had. Best working connections that I made, like the friends that I have now from The Source back then, that are, so many are out there doing their thing, whether it's in TV or media, publishing still. That was the best time, personally. That was the best time. I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of friends.
Did you have good work-life balance? Or you was just so hip-hop, like you were hip-hop. So that was your life and your work.
My work was my life.
Exactly, right.
My work was my life. I mean, it still is my life, really, personally. But back then, we had fun. It was fun. I was going out every night, like hanging out. But also that's when, my circle changed, right? So like my gang, my crew. I just saw them this weekend. One of my friends had her 50th birthday. Shout out to Alexis. She brought us together, right? I don't see them a lot. Like my circle, most of my circle works in the industry in some way, right? And that was when sort of like my circle changed, right? When I got into the game and you find people that have the same interests and, you make those connections. And I think that, I value a lot of the relationships that I've gotten. I'm not tight with every single person I was tight with back at The Source, but the people who I was tight with back then are still in my life.
Gotcha.
So, I think that, it was a great time. It was a great time. That was the best time, best job. We all say that. A lot of us say that were back then.
Do you like your work behind the camera as much as you did as editor-in-chief?
I love my work behind the camera, and I'm thinking almost more than my work
Mhm.
at the source, right? Because I'm like learning still.
Yeah.
But my circle and my environment I don't like as much. So television is different. It's meaner. Like I just and it's not hip hop. I do a lot of things in the hip hop space, but my circle of like, work friends and the relationships I make, it's not hip hop. There's a few of us doing it, people doing what I do, whether it's show running, producing. But when we go into, the office and, when we shoot on set, even if I'm shooting a hip hop show, it's not hip hop. It's not like at the source where it was like, we're all hip hop, right? It's just some people, hip hop is kind of, it's global. There's people on TV that, are from the culture, but mostly the people that I deal with are not.
But it's funny because I dealt with that this summer where sometimes you have to deal with people who are tasked with a hip hop based project, but they don't necessarily understand the culture.
The culture.
Right.
So that's a challenge in my space, but not just that, right? Like that's on the story and the producing side, right? But look at the production management side. Like that's a whole different area of expertise. Like when I'm and a lot of what I do in television is logistics. And that's that's the not fun part of my job, right? I don't want to make a schedule. I don't want to, kind of like put all of these Google Docs together and organize. But as a showrunner, you have to do that. Like it's a big part of your job.
Yeah. And it's a very important part of the whole.
It is, and it's one that is valued more in show running, in television.
Right.
So they prefer to relegate me to a number 2 position and say, yeah, you do that. You talk to talent. You deal with, story, and we'll find a showrunner to deal with everything else. I used to be uncomfortable with that because I'd be like, I can show run. I can do everything else a showrunner, because then I was trying to prove myself, right? Like, and I found myself stressing out. I'm like, I don't even want to do this part. Like, can we hire someone to do this other stuff, right? The show running piece that I enjoy is the creative piece. And there's a lot of people in those positions covering, doing docs on, hip hop artists or doing ensemble cast shows really with a hip hop focus. Even some of the true crime shows, which I'm in that space as well now, that, and a lot of it kind of where it intersects with hip hop. A lot of those people don't really understand the culture. Right. So, yeah. So and they don't always have to.
They don't, but then you become like an ambassador for it, and you got to kind of navigate for them in a way that is amenable to them.
Exactly.
But also is true to the culture. Because you don't want to be a part of something that, doesn't speak in the right way. Where'd you get all this from? What I mean is this whole, ambition and, I'll do the shit. Like, where'd you get it from? Your mom's was like that? Your father was like that? Like, where'd you get this from?
I'd say my parents had it. Like, they had ambition, but, they both came from very humble backgrounds. Like, my mother is one of 14. They lived in a 3-bedroom project apartment in East Harlem. Right. My father is one of 5. They lived in the building where, the whole family lives in one building. Right. So they had to find a way, right? My mother didn't go to college. My father barely graduated the 8th grade. They had to find a way. And that's where I think the hustle mentality comes from, right? Like finding a way.
That's why Waters.
But I also think...
Waters for that.
Look at that.
That's a story.
I also think I got it from Video Music Box. Right. Because I was watching hip hop, right? And so a lot of the education came from the music for me, right? Mm-hmm. It was like we learned back then. That's why it's hard for us in the second generation hip hop to hear a song and be like, it's not, they're not saying nothing.
Right.
Because we're used to listening to a song or watching a video and feeling like,
I
like.
remember we used to be, my sisters used to, I used to have a boom box, but I used to let them play their tapes in it sometime when they wasn't getting on my nerves, and they would write the words to songs like Salt and Pepper or Yo-Yo, like they would literally write the lyrics down.
And you study them.
And they're pressing rewind, pressing play, right? That's us. Like that's who we are. And I think, you know, with this 50th thing, right, I'm working on something at Restoration. I work at Best Side Restoration, right? I'm the director of event services. And so one of the things we're working on is a panel where we're talking about like hip hop and civics. So the fact of the matter is, we now have leaders of state like Hakeem Jeffries, right? So Hakeem Jeffries was supposed to be in the Just a Friend video, the Biz Markie. You know, when he's on the campus and he's with the Kappas, that's Hakeem's chapter. That's his line brothers. But he had to go to work, so he didn't make the video, right? So we have people who are in leadership positions across industries that got their sensibilities from hip hop. Right? And so it's bigger than just how we grew up trying to just be a part of it. We now become like, it's made flesh almost. Hip hop is made flesh. Like, and that's what I think about when I think about you. It's like, there's no separating you and hip hop.
No.
Like, you can't cut hip hop out of you.
I can't.
Like, even the smash finger, that's hip hop, right?
You really said my smash finger?
Yeah, it's ugly, but it's fine though.
It
but,
is ugly, right?
but that's what I'm saying about us. Our generation is that intertwined with the thing. See, Hip Hop 1.0, they were intertwined with it, but they didn't get the money for it. They didn't learn how to translate.
Well, they had to lay the foundation.
They had to. We needed them to be able to be us.
Right, which is why I feel like we need to do a better job.
I agree.
Take care of them.
I agree. Hip hop is a $500 billion industry. You telling me we can't create a pension fund?
Yeah.
Like it would be revolutionary because rock and roll doesn't have something like that. But rock and roll doesn't need something like that because unlike rock and roll, we don't. Our music has moved. This genre has moved so quickly that kids, 25, 26-year-olds, they don't really care about the music from the 70s and 80s. Mick Jagger and Rolling Stones is coming out with an album on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's 81 years old. They're making an album that's going to have spins. You know, so we have to do something to help them out. I agree with you on that. Yeah. But, you know, I wanted to ask you this too. What do you feel about hip hop now? Do you listen to new shit?
Yeah.
What you listen to? What you like?
Look, I will not front and act like I know the way that I knew it back then. Right. But I like a lot of the songs that come out, and I remember I have kids, so that's pretty much where I hear like, okay, I think I've been saying this, and then I'm like, I don't think that counts, but like I love Kendrick.
Kendrick counts. He's not 2.0. He's like 4.0.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like obsessed. Like if you go to my Apple Music, it'll come up like he's like I've given.
I love
like
J. Cole.
This many hours. Like I've given Kendrick like this many hours of my life. I'm like, I listen to it that much.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that counted. I feel like he speaks still to this generation.
But he's young. He's just an old soul. Yeah, he's not 35 yet. Is Kendrick 35?
I don't know.
Look it up. Let's look
Kendrick
it up.
about 42.
Kendrick is not 42 years old. I guarantee you he's not 42.
No, but I really think he's like phenomenal. But look.
36.
Yeah.
Google says he's 36.
Google says he's 36. That means he's a little older.
Now,
He's
I don't
41.
co-sign. I said, like, you know, I don't co-sign everything that I listen to lyrically now. But I do like I like when I see an Ice Spice. Right? And when she first came out, I wanted to book her. I was doing the Rap City thing, and it was like, oh, you know, there's a lot of criticism around it because of what but there was something about her that the Little Orphan Annie hair.
Yeah,
I'm
that's,
obsessed.
oh my God, you killed it. Yes.
I said, who thought of this?
Right.
This is incredible.
Right.
Like, they were like, we got it.
Right.
And they just pushed her out there.
Right.
I love it, right? Because I kind of love the media spectacle around, and I've always been into this, right? Like, it's my base, but just the media spectacle in hip hop. I've always loved that. Like, I just feel like I'm drawn to it. It makes me want to find out more. And I mean,
But
the
the
girl will
mechanics
put
of it
up
is dope.
like numbers and hits, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily co-sign the things she's saying at that age, but I'm like,
It's translating.
And it's
It's
trendy.
translating in a big way.
Right. So I do like some of that new stuff, right? I think that you know, I'm not big on the drill and the trap. Like, I'm not. Actually, I like some ratchet music.
That's actually
But-
been very big in the Bronx. You guys had K-Flop that's locked up now for murder. Didi Osama. I know some of those artists up there in the Bronx. Yeah.
I'm not that big on that,
Yeah.
right? But some of it I like.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is, you know.
But again, it's always been, hip hop has always been the speakerphone to what's going on in the streets.
Right.
And it's really no different.
And
with
that's the
that.
thing,
Yeah.
like, so that's why I pay attention. I'm like, okay, this is not for me
Right.
at this age,
Right.
but I respect it,
Right.
you know, and I
Right.
watch. I touch a lot of people,
Mhm.
and so I always know of something
Right.
because I'm being told by that third and fourth generation.
And I'm gonna tell you something. There is a undercurrent underneath drill
Mm-hmm.
where those kids are becoming more and more lyrical. There's a girl group called Girl Code. Shout out to Girl Code. We're gonna have them up here in a couple
Nice.
of weeks. Girl Code.
I've heard of them. I've heard of them. But
When
haven't
I
done
was just with them on
research.
Sunday. We did something over here in Brooklyn.
Okay.
When I tell you they spit,
Yeah.
they spit.
Nice.
And they just out of high school. They young.
Nice.
And they spit. So on the back end of this drill music, like just like clouds, like how the rain will come and then
Right.
there'll be
And
sun
then there's
behind the
something,
rain.
yeah.
What I'm saying is behind the darkness of drill music,
It's
there's kids that want to be lyrical again because they grew up in households where their mother and father were like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And they listen to Hypnotized by B.I.G. and they listen to Definition of a Thug Nigga by
Mhm.
Pac. And symbiotically, they are reacting to that in a major way. And it's happening.
Yeah.
Who's your top five? Let me tell you my top five.
You tell me yours, and then
Okay.
I'll tell you mine. I'm gonna
All
change mine. I'm gonna change it every time.
All
someone
right,
asks
here's
me.
my top five.
Okay. Ah, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
My top five. To me, number one is Tupac.
Okay.
Just ain't nobody like him ever. But a close second is Jay-Z.
Okay.
Jay-Z is the contemporary number one because Pac is dead, but Pac is number one to me. The Pac dropped 8 albums of new music when he was dead.
Mhm.
Like, who the fuck does that? Like
Mhm.
hits, like dope shit. So it's Pac, it's Jay-Z, it's Nas. I can't give Nas above Jay. Nas is great. He's amazing. But Jay has become definitive in the culture, and that's very difficult to do, right? And even though Nas puts out these albums, and I like these albums, he's not definitive in terms of in the way that Jay has been. And a lot of what Jay's done is because he's more of a businessman in the
Mhm,
culture, right? So Pop, Jay, Nas, Big is number 4, and then number 5 has to be Rakim because nobody from 1.0 changed the way we spoke,
Mm-hmm.
changed our vernacular more than Rakim did.
Okay.
Rakim taught me about the 5% Nation. Rakim, in the way he spoke, taught me how to speak in a cool way. That's my top 5. Who's your top 5?
I used to do my top 5 like you. I used to do it like that. Like, okay, these are the top 5
Right. And
that
this
I
is why.
have,
Right.
and this is why.
Yeah.
I'll do it like that.
How you do it?
Because it keeps changing, right? Like I just told you how
It's
obsessed I
cool.
was with Kendrick, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, is Kendrick top 5 now? Top 5, right? So like now I do my top 5 like this. And Hip Hop 50 changed my top 5. Because I was
Okay.
like, you know what my top 5 was in 1992?
Wow.
Big Daddy Kane, KRS One, Slick Rick,
Right.
Coogee Rap,
Right.
right, and Rakim.
Right.
That was my top 5
In 92.
in '92, right? Before Big,
That's a
before
respectful
Nas,
top
before
5 in 92.
right. And Hip Hop 50, I went to Cassidy's Pass the Mic. It was so good the way they curated that show, and I had so much fun.
I heard it was great. A lot of those artists
I was
performed for us. at the
what
Block
a
Party.
show
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I was like, does everybody else think this is a good show, or just people my age?
Nope,
No, it was
Jason
a-
keeps
I
talking
went.
about
It was a dope show.
I said, this is incredible,
Right.
right?
Right.
For and even like I actually, who was with me? My friend Bianca was with me, and Loki was with me. You know Loki?
No.
Yep.
You know
I
Lo,
what
right?
it is.
Lo used to work for me at BT. I made him come, and he's like, I think he's 3rd generation, right? And he loved it. I was like, you don't know these songs. What you talking about?
You was fucking
I was like, you don't know. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was
Sing a word. Sing a
I was
verse.
drinking cranberry vodka. I'm sure. I was like, you don't know these songs. You don't know these songs. But he said he said the same thing.
Right.
It was like, this is phenomenal. This show is incredible. And I was like, this is the music. Oh snap! I left LL Cool J off. This is the music that shaped and molded me to become.
Shaped and molded America.
Yeah, and hip hop.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no women in there. See, that's why I can do a top
It's
5.
hard.
But that's your top 5 from 35 years ago.
Yeah, that is from '92.
Even
yeah.
in '92 though,
Right.
could have light.
So I gotta come up with like a politically correct top 5.
I don't look.
Yeah.
One of the things I always talk about is when we have these conversations, we gotta agree on criteria because my criteria may not be your
Yeah, and then
criteria.
it's like
I don't
what
feel
about
like
the
I need to be politically
Like I could just
correct.
go Wu-Tang, like
Right. Right, and that'd be fine. Right, right, that'd be right.
it's like I used to say Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas. Like
Did you go to the De La joint
which one?
at
No,
Westford Hall?
I didn't. I was so upset I didn't go. So mad the next morning.
That was amazing.
I know it was. It looked amazing.
It was. It was.
I saw them perform at the Hip Hop 50 dinner. I mean the
At
museum.
At the museum, at the gala.
Yeah,
You went to the gala?
I
Oh,
did.
you got the money. Because I know what that was. Because they tried to get me to go. I see the ticket price. I was like,
Oh, no,
I'll
no.
watch it on TV.
Oh, don't tell about it.
Oh, okay. Oh, media. See, that's what I should have did. I should have did media. Yeah, but they performed there.
Shout out to Chanel. This is the only time I've ever done the shout out.
Yeah,
like that,
it's
but
a double gun.
I don't know, like I was just like shouting everybody out.
From the game.
Give me your top 5 today. And then we're going to go to the questions. Tell
All
me your
right.
top 5.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put Kendrick in there.
That's fine.
Okay.
Where's he? Number 1?
No.
Number 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going 5 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kendrick is 5.
But you don't like my other top 5?
I'm asking you, is that your top 5 today? I like it.
That's
I said
too
I like
hard.
it. But is that your top 5 today?
Biggie's in there.
Is he number 4? You just throwing names. You're not
Nah,
even
Biggie's
giving
like-
numbers.
2.
He's like 2. So Kendrick's 5, Biggie's 2.
Yeah. See, my top 5 is polluted.
What?
It's
How is it polluted?
Cause it's starting to be like, who do I like as a person?
See,
Like the character,
Yeah,
the character of people is
Yeah.
speaking to me.
but that's fine if that's your criteria.
Because
fine.
it's like, okay, this person is dope lyrically, but I'm
he's
not
an
gonna
asshole. Right.
co-sign
I'm never
someone
gonna
that
see it.
did something
Right.
that I, to someone that I know that I'm like,
That's fine.
you know what I mean?
But that's your criteria. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So I still gotta come up with 3 more.
Yeah. Because you got Biggie at 2, your 1 is blank, your 3 is blank, your 4 is blank.
I got Phil spots
You
in.
got Phil spots in.
Redman was in my top 5
Redman
at
is
one
an
time-
amazing
at one point.
lyricist.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
love watching Redman
Mhm.
perform. He's an
Mhm.
amazing lyricist.
Mhm.
I feel you on that.
I love Redman.
Where does he go? He's just in the pit. He's
4.
just 4. Okay. So it's blank, Biggie, blank, Redman,
Redman.
Kendrick.
Okay, good. It's a different.
We getting
top
there.
5, yeah.
We getting there.
I feel like I should pick a woman.
Okay. I'm with that.
I'll go with Light.
Where? 3 or 1?
3.
Okay, so it's blank, Biggie,
It's a new
Light,
top 5. It's a whole new top 5.
Redman, Kendrick. Okay, who is number 1? Commit
Oh
to
my
that.
God.
You don't want to commit to that. Tell me.
I would hate to say. I want to say Nas should be in there, but I want to move him down.
You can. We got to go to 6. Nas is number 6.
I really like Kendrick.
So you want Kendrick number 1
Let's
and
move
Nas
Kendrick
number 5?
there. Like, let's shift him down a little.
All right, so Biggie right now you got
I got
Biggie
Biggie at
1,
2.
Light 2,
Yeah, let's make Biggie 1. 'Cause that's
Biggie
always
1, Light
consistency.
2, Redman 3, Kendrick 4, Nas 5.
Yeah, I booted Jay-Z out. That's crazy.
It's your list.
It is,
I
right?
don't judge your list. It's your list.
Because I have a Biggie. I pick,
Okay.
like some people, because of Jay's catalog, they
Right.
pick Jay over Biggie now. You
Well, I
notice
just
that?
think,
People
yeah,
pick
but
Jay over
for
Biggie
me,
now.
my criteria is
I
catalog.
feel like the same person.
And Biggie is like he's like Gail Sayers. Gail Sayers was an amazing running back that played for a very short amount of time. Right? He's like that.
I
where,
get
like,
it.
You
I
know,
think that's people's argument
yeah,
now.
he's amazing,
Yeah.
but 2 albums,
Yeah, you're like, it's not enough.
it's not enough for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
We
saying? And
got
that's kind of what I mean about pop. What happened?
We got questions, y'all.
It's questions. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Get on
I'm
the
sorry.
outside.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
We
That's
can go
right.
to the questions now. Because we're having a conversation. It's just me and you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You should have just stuck with my
Okay.
5 from 92.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God.
And then added some
Right.
in there.
What's the questions? What's
Okay,
the people
okay.
them saying?
All right, CEO. He agreed. So my screen was like stuck, and I missed a whole bunch of comments.
Oh,
so I'm
man.
sorry about that. But he was also like, my biggest flaw is I don't know how to nurture relationships, and I really felt that. Like I'm supposed to be going somewhere after this, and I was like, I'm not going. I don't feel like going. But after you said that, we have to go, Marlon.
So then let's
Yeah.
go.
I'm gonna get dressed and do my makeup.
Let's
We're
go.
gonna,
I'm with
we're
you.
gonna go.
Let's
Yes.
go.
So thank you.
Yeah, I got a whole
You got me out the
but I'm
house.
good. Okay.
Okay, and then okay, so back to the questions. CEO said that, and then he has a question. Where is the question? There was a lot going on, y'all.
Did they see us, or you think it froze while we was talking?
No, they saw us. Please ask. Okay, sorry, CEO. I'm gonna get back to you because Joe asked this a long time ago. Hope she's still here. Please ask him what her next creative endeavor will be.
So, in television, there's a 12 to 18 month lead time, right? So, the stuff that you see now, I worked on over a year ago. And in TV, it's hard to talk about the stuff I'm working on now because I'm not supposed to by contract. So, in November, there is a show, and I'm not allowed to say the name, but it'll be out. It's the one that I worked on with Jennifer Williams, and it was a love scam show. So in the vein,
A love scam.
yeah, and it's like a Tinder swindler.
I love a good.
You're going to love this one because, I mean, this is public knowledge. I think she dealt with it on Basketball Wives, but her Range Rover was stolen by someone she was involved with romantically. So she put him on blast.
Oh, you talking about Jennifer Williams that used to deal with the ball? You talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I know you're talking
Yes.
about. That. Yeah.
So last year we shot this docuseries. It's a 2-part special. Did you guys see Tinder Swindler?
No, I did. That was my guy.
Yes.
That was my guy. Okay, what was his
So,
bodyguard's name? That was my
This,
guy.
in my opinion, is gonna blow it out the water.
It's gonna blow that out the water.
Because this is our community.
Mhm.
Right.
A lot of it takes place in Atlanta,
Which is the swindling capital of the world.
and she found out a lot when she took this guy to court,
and
and
it opened up everything. Can
and
of worms.
yeah, I can't say
So
too much
where's
about
it coming
the
on?
show.
It's coming on which station? What streaming? Where is it?
I'm gonna say VH1 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm not sure if it was announced. So
Okay. Well, we
I'm
gotta
not
keep
even
our
supposed to
eye
talk
out
about
for
Right.
that.
Yeah, don't, yeah,
Okay. We
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
trouble.
No.
trouble, but
We didn't hear nothing.
Yeah, we
Nobody.
didn't hear
yeah,
nothing.
I think I said the date. I was supposed to say that.
You said the
Next-
day. I didn't hear the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
No, there was no.
No,
date.
no,
You
no,
didn't
no,
say
no,
no
I
date.
said no
She
date.
didn't
I
say
said
no
no
date.
date. When it
Oh,
comes
I
on,
didn't hear
watch it.
nothing.
Right.
We ain't hear nothing. Okay. CEO, what do you feel was missing in the celebration of hip hop through the year? What elements or aspects do you feel weren't acknowledged?
Oh, CEO, shout out to CEO. He's coming through with the
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
I think we had a lot of great concerts, and I loved that here in New York. I know that they were saying in other areas that they didn't celebrate it as much, but we're still in the same 50 year, so we have a lot of time to
We have
make
all
up
the
for
way
this.
Yes.
until
Yep.
August 11th. of next year.
I'd like to
A
see
lot of
more.
more bags for us to get to.
Yeah, more celebration about other people in the culture besides the artists, right? Like the people behind the scenes, different careers that hip hop has given life to. I'd love to see more of that. So, but I'm seeing. I think it's great. Like I'm seeing a lot of different things in the hip hop 50 celebration. So, yeah.
You got something else? I want to just
Yep.
touch on something
Enough. Oh.
real quick because there have been word out of Atlanta, like artists in Atlanta have been saying that they feel slighted because New York hasn't been celebrating them. How do you feel about that? Because I feel like, Atlanta has had its own era of hip hop, and they're free to celebrate that era. Like there's nothing stopping Atlanta from. They had a mighty hip hop era.
Yeah, I feel the
right?
same way. It's a weird conversation.
Right, that you would say that. Right, I agree with you. Just celebrate.
Throw a party. We're gonna come.
Right, right. Give us Outkast. Give us Dungeon Family.
We're gonna be down
Give
there.
us Young Bloods.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
and let's rock.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did.
Okay. King Bowie. Bouye. Am I saying that?
You know who that is? You don't know who that is.
All commercial women hip hop artists are hypersexual. Will there ever be another Lauryn Hill?
That's a good question.
It's an okay question.
It's okay. It's decent.
Yes, I think that there are artists, creative women. He said commercial, so that's where, the debate is, right? Like everyone that I know loves Rhapsody.
Mhm.
Everyone that I know loves her. So what do we deem to be like commercially successful, right? Like what are we looking for? Like the big sort of blowout success. I don't know. Yeah, like we're waiting for her to have that moment, right? So I think that there are so many, and especially with the women now, there's so much. The problem is the internets. The problem is what we see and consume on social media, because the spectacle takes over and we're seeing more women. We're not seeing really, it's not about the music. What we're seeing is like,
and if you're riding for likes, then that's a different thing. Right?
Some women are just out there like really creating music.
Not in it's both, because I'm gonna tell you something. You know who Chip Fu is, right?
Of course, yeah.
That's so funny you said that. I was getting ready to say he said dope list.
Let me tell you something. This man, I'm gonna tell him. I hope he's listening.
Yeah, he's here.
on.
Just said dope list.
Shout out to Chip Fu.
Chip Fu has fire. I sat with this man and I listened to some of the things he's been working on. It's fire.
Dope.
It's dope. Like it's dope. Like it's dope.
But you know what I think? I think, and this is I will say about a lot of artists from our second generation era. It's okay for those artists to make music for us.
Right. That's what I say all the time. Right.
I think the problem comes when people are thinking that success is determined by breaking into a certain community, right? And that's where you start to see this thing.
Or even being on the radio.
Right.
When the radio is not, High 97 and 105.1 is not for us anymore.
No. I have my own playlist, so
Right. I have my own playlist.
Yeah.
But if it's one thing that Hip Hop 50 have shown over this summer is that 35 to 54-year-olds will spend money on second generation hip hop music. Without question.
And we do better shows.
And there's this whole thing going around now, I don't know if you know, but there's this thing where these new generation artists, they don't sell out arenas anymore. Right? Because the concept, the music is so disposable that they don't really care to follow you through your album and into your tour. Drake is really like the last, Drake and 21 Savage are really like the last ones that are actually selling out arenas.
Yeah.
All of these other young boys, because the music is so disposable in the eyes of their consumers, they're not really selling out arenas, and that's become a problem. Like, people have had to cancel shows.
Yeah.
People have had to move, scale down tours because the numbers just aren't there. But meanwhile, you put De La Soul, Special Ed, and MC Light on a card, and you make that tour, and I guarantee you that shit is selling out.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear it, and we have the money to afford to pay for
go,
it.
and we'll pay.
And we'll pay.
Yeah.
Okay, Joanne has another question. Besides yourself, who are the women behind the scenes in hip hop you think should be celebrated?
Oh my God, there's so many women to celebrate behind the scenes, but I don't like to name names because then I leave people off.
No, I feel you.
And I'm gonna tell you straight up, if I name those women, it's going to be my friends first.
Right.
I'm just gonna do that.
Right.
So, and just because I know their stories and I know, right, like, you know, I always talk about Rhonda Cowan because she gave me my job at BET after The Source, and that is someone who has supported me as a woman, right, throughout my career since I left. I stopped working for her in 2012 or 13. I work for her no more. I still call her every day and get my marching orders, like, okay. Right?
Wow.
Because, and that's it's like inspiring to me, and that's what I try to do for women that have come up after me, because she's first generation. I like to call her first generation hip hop. And you know, just working for her at BET, we developed a very strong relationship. She's one of my best friends to this day. And I sit on the phone with her and I let her tell me the stories that I tell from my generation to the next generation. Like, when she tells me those stories about working at Def Jam back in you know, when she was there with Russell, like, I love that stuff, right? And it's because I was a fan of that era, right? That top 5 came out of that era.
So obviously, and one thing we do here, we don't really get into drama here. So I never touched on the things with The Source and all that. But
yeah, because I talked about that so much.
I don't. It is what it is, right? But my thing, you know, when you said this, it made me think about your role in terms of empowerment of women in this industry. Like, you did take a stand, and you did use your voice to kind of expose misogyny in the workplace, right? And so, like, do you see yourself as that? Do you see yourself as someone who has empowered the voices of females that come in this industry? I don't like using that word, females, women,
right?
That have come in this industry after you, knowing that you have led as an example. Like, yo, you don't have to take it. Like,
I do, but I rather the women that I impact tell that story.
Gotcha.
Than me.
Than you. Gotcha.
And they do it, and every time they do it, it's like, for me, rewarding, right? I'm like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, when someone calls me and says, yo, you really are about this women empowerment thing. Like, you're really about it. You're not just...
Right.
That is what fuels me. It's not for me to, like, talk about all the time, like, oh, I do this or I do that. But, like, when I get that phone call from someone and they're like, you're really real. And when I see them post and they say, she really did this for me. Yeah. Like, that's where I kind of, you know, I feel it. I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So, one of the things for me, my background is in engineering, and then I wound up in fashion. How do you feel your background in law has helped you with your career in journalism and hip hop and producing? And
so my background in law definitely helped me. One, I mean, I knew what breaking the law was when I filed my
You already knew you had them in the bag. Like, yo, y'all don't know.
I remember reading about that.
Like this. Right. But also that, and shout out to Tracy. She's another woman, Tracy Waples, that needs to be celebrated in hip hop. she calls me the hip hop public defender as a joke. She's like, you're like, because I am a research fanatic. So like, in law school teaches you not the law, right? I mean, you learn law, but it's really about researching and interpreting the law. So it teaches you that. You study cases, you read case after case and see the different opinions and the, the arguments. And I think that training has helped me as a journalist because I will not accept just anybody's story. I'm like, okay, that's what you have to say? All right, let me go check that. And then let me check it again. And then there's just a lot of research that goes into that.
Okay, and I guess it's the last one because we're like at 8:40.
Yeah, right.
Do you feel that the Latino and Caribbean community get enough respect for their contributions to the culture? That's DJ CEO.
I do.
Yeah, I think so.
I do. I have this joke. I say the best rappers are all Jamaican.
Yo, there's a thing to be
It's
said
something about the flow.
That. Yeah, there's
right?
a thing to be said about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I have that. I always say that because Biggie,
Yeah.
right? And
There's
like
a
even
thing.
if a Buster.
Do you
Right.
remember the artist Chef G? He's locked up now. A young
No.
artist. So there's a young artist named Chef G that he's locked up on a RICO charge. I don't know when he's coming out of jail.
Mhm.
Young boy,
Mm-hmm.
Jamaican and Trinity.
But I should say Caribbean because
Yeah,
I left the
Caribbean,
pun,
yeah.
right?
Right.
The pun.
Shit.
Right. Afro Latino.
But that's a New
Caribbean
York thing too. Also,
Right.
like I feel like when I grew up, everybody was like Caribbean,
Yeah. We lived in New York City.
right?
We're dealing with a migrant issue now, but the fact of the matter is New York City is a migrant city,
It is. It is.
right?
It is. It is.
So
And we have better food.
Much
big
better.
facts. Big facts.
Right.
When last time you been to Puerto Rico? Go on, tell the truth. You ain't been back. Look, she ain't been back.
No, I've gone there once or twice.
Ever.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take my kids.
Yeah, I'm going in November. There's a political conference.
Yeah. I haven't been there too much,
Yeah.
but I'm like a tourist.
This was cool, right?
This is so cool.
Right. That's
Thank
what I'm
you.
saying. Indeed,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I love the inside.
I enjoyed
The
it.
graffiti in the back
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
it's giving me.
It's
life.
lit. And then the red cups and
Yeah.
Jason with the clouds.
Yeah, and then I kept looking at Biggie.
Yeah.
Like I kept.
Yeah. So Hip Hop Closet is really what it is. This showroom is like a closet. It feels
It
like
feels
a
like
closet.
a closet. I love it.
You know what I'm saying? But it's authentic. It's
Yeah.
really authentic. So
Thanks for having
I'm
me.
glad that you came. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being a part of this and for believing in us and for coming and being a part of
Thank
this.
you.
Right?
Thank you for making me late. I'm late. I'm always late.
How did I make you late?
But I'm always late.
I'll tell
I
you
was late
something.
here.
So you came when Chastity had the event that Matt
Yes.
Prophet came
I
to.
love Chastity.
And we met and I was like, yo, you really gotta come on the show. And you're a legend, right? And so it was dope meeting you, but then when Kaisha said that we were interviewing you, I was like, oh, this is dope.
Thank you.
This is big.
I have to come. Did I do better than Mike B?
So I'm gonna tell you the
I'm very
similarity.
competitive.
I'm gonna tell you the similarity.
He's a Gemini too.
I'm a Gemini
Yeah.
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what's your birthday?
June 14th.
June 8th. You're Trump.
So is
I'm
Kendrick.
Kanye and Kendrick, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna tell you the similarities. And that's funny because Mike B's also a Gemini.
Yes, he's
Just like you and me and Mike B wound up having our own conversation.
Right.
And it wasn't even about this. And that's the same thing me and you do. We wound up
Right.
having our own fucking conversation.
right, but that's
right.
what we should do.
Right. Indeed.
Shout out to Mike B.
Shout out to Mike, man. I
so
actually
you,
want
so
to
you
contact
basically
him.
saying he was better.
No, I like talking with you better than Mike. I think you were better.
I can't wait to call him.
Yeah,
next
tell him
week.
that.
Mike B, I was better than you at Hip
Tell
Hop
him that.
Closet.
Tell him that. Tell him that. So this was great. This is a great set off for our fall season.
Absolutely.
People, you obviously were responsive. Shout out to CEO. CEO is one of those DJs that have been doing this thing for a very long time. He's
I
killing
love
it.
a CEO.
And I know Howard and Hampton are playing this weekend, and CEO is going to be DJing
Oh, he
like
is.
an after party for that game on Saturday. Yeah, he's going to be out there. He's going to be
I
out
should
there.
go.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
It's parents' weekend too.
I have a
My
hosting.
daughter goes there.
I have a hosting engagement. I gotta work on.
You have to
Saturday.
work. I don't. It's parents' weekend. I should go,
I'll
right?
go down there with you.
Internet, should I go?
Look, I just want to end by giving some love to a friend of mine. So my friend Michelle, she owned Merritt's on Grand in Brooklyn. Her son Nico was murdered on July 18th, 2000. Right. the killer was free for 3 years. A couple weeks ago, the feds found and captured the killer in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
And so we've been waiting and waiting for him to be extradited so that he can see the justice that we deserve here in New York City. I got a text from her while we were talking that the plane has landed and he's here and he will be arraigned tomorrow morning at 9:30. And so I'm going to be there and other people are going to be there. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I just really want to support my sister because, it's far too often we glorify things that are of a negative aspect to us, right? And this happened to her. And I can tell you firsthand that when you have a loss like this, you never get over it.
Yeah.
And she's never going to get over the loss for her son. And even though they caught this killer, it's still not enough, right, to kind of get back what she lost, but we support her. I love you, Michelle. I'm so happy that this scourge of the earth is going to be arraigned tomorrow, and I'll be there. And that's it. Like, we do what we do here at Hip Hop Closet. We had a great summer. It's the fall season. We back for conversations.
We are back.
And I just really love
and we
this
got
work.
We're booked
We're
till
booked.
September. So
Yeah,
we have
we're
some
booked.
fun people.
We got
coming
some
out.
dope. We got some dope
This
people.
was dope.
And I'm always appreciative of anybody that says yes to this, right? Because you don't have to say yes to this. There are podcasts out the wazoo at this point. There are people that are doing all types of stuff. So I'm very appreciative.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you.
I know when you
for
say
being
yes, I was like, she's
Right.
so
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
So
Can't do
happy.
the blue ivy wave. Y'all know you come out on stage like this.
Yeah. And so I'm appreciative.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna move forward next week. We got another interesting guest. Pop up Tuesday at 7 p.m. What's up, Kai? You about to turn it off? You gotta show him. We ain't do a kick. We ain't do a sneaker check.
I wasn't prepared for
Jay got on.
one.
What Jay got on? Those the Jordan 12s?
I wasn't
those?
prepared for
11
Day 1
Ps.
11 Ps.
Yeah.
We got Kim with the
Atmosphere.
Illy Jordan. Those the highs or the mids?
I know,
That's a
I
mid.
No
love
mids,
those.
no mids.
No mids. We don't do
Love
mids. I got the Jordan 1 lows, the SEs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I
My
mean?
kids told me we don't do
We don't do mids. They try to get you in the stores though.
Yeah, 'cause the
I had to
colors
tell
are
my
cute.
daughter. Yeah, I had to
Colors
tell my
are
daughter
cute.
we don't do mids, man.
Yeah.
We don't do mids. All right. So we'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. at hiphopcloset.com. Peace and love.
Peace.
Thank you.